We began this morning with a change in world leadership. The International Energy Agency says China is now the world's hungriest energy consumer. Last year, for the first time ever, China used more energy than any other country. The IEA says China devoured 2,252 million tons of what it calls oil equivalent last year. That's about 4% more than the U.S. total. We had always been the world's biggest energy user, and the U.S. is still #1 in terms of energy use per person. But we have only about 300 million people. That total is compared to China's 1.3 billion. Joining us now from Paris to discuss the report is Fatih Birol. He is the chief economist at the International Energy Agency. And Fatih, it's good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
Let's start with the significance of this change in energy usage. Do you see this as a one-year anomaly that China is #1, or do you see this as more of a long-term trend for that country?
I think this is the start of a new age in terms of energy sector, that the global energy picture will be dominated by China for the next several decades to come.
Fatih, an interesting reaction from China. It immediately slammed the IEA's report and disputed the numbers at work here. Did you or anyone else in the agency anticipate such a strong backlash from China at taking the #1 spot?
I think this is something rather expected. When I look at the Chinese colleagues' numbers, what they say is true. It is only 0.4% lower than United States. So which means that if this overtaking didn't take place end of 2009, as we say, it would have overtaken United States, according to Chinese number, in the first quarter of this year. So that would be a difference of 3 months only if the Chinese numbers were right and our numbers were not right.
This is the first time ever, Fatih, as we said, that the U.S. is not the world leader in terms of energy consumption. And your report points to some very clear indicators as to why the U.S. lost its spot, not just because of China's growth, but also because of the global recession.
The main reasons here is that, especially in the 2-3 years, in the last 2-3 years, it is the recession, definitely. But before that, Americans started to use energy more efficiently compared to past. It is still not as efficient as Europe, for example, or as efficient as Japan, but compared to past trends, Americans started to use energy more efficiently, their cars, their home appliances, and the others. So as a result of that, I expect that the U.S. energy consumption, even after the recession is over, will not grow in the order that we have seen for example, in the 80s, 90s, and so on. It will slow down because energy will be used more efficiently, and also there are some saturation effects in terms of number of electrical appliances, number of cars per capita, and you in the United States reach a certain saturation level in terms of their ownerships.
Fatih, final question regarding what's to come. China is putting into place what it calls carbon intensity reduction targets in an effort to cut energy usage and up its energy efficiency. But here in the U.S., we are still struggling to pass legislation to curb our emissions and increase our energy efficiency. What does that tell you about the growth of these two countries in, say, over the next decade?
China has some targets, and these targets are good targets, but they are not as ambitious as they need to be given the Chinese trends. But when it comes to United States, there are different discussions, but if United States in the near future cannot come up with a clear target which is satisfactory for the most of the nations in the world, I am sure it will not be a good input for the other countries' decision-making in taking right steps in the right direction.
With us from Paris is Dr. Fatih Birol. He is Chief Economist for the International Energy Agency. Fatih, once again, thank you for joining us and sharing your insight this morning.
Thank you very much.